Hey guys, tonight we begin with one of the most brutal chapters in modern history. A moment the world remembers for heroism and sacrifice. But we're going to talk about the side that doesn't make it into the speeches. The noise, the fear, the horror. Because for the men who lived through it, the invasion of Normandy was anything but glorious. So if you're lying in bed, trying to fall asleep to the sounds of history, dim the lights, get comfortable, and imagine this. You're soaked before you even get there. The sea is churning like it's angry at you, slapping waves over the bow of your landing craft. Every man packed in around you reeks of oil, salt water, and nerves. You can barely move. Your knees ache. Your helmet keeps sliding down over your eyes. You're gripping your rifle like it's the only thing keeping you alive, and for all you know, it is. Someone throws up beside you. You don't flinch. The smell's just one more misery to ignore. You're focused on the ramp. That's steel. Ramp. It's the only thing between you and whatever's waiting outside. And you know it's waiting. Machine gun nests, mortar, landmines, and enough barbed wire to fence in a small country. The engine sputters, slows. The noise shifts. You feel it before you see it. The ramp is about to drop. There's a shout your officer yelling something you can't hear over the roar of artillery. The sky flashes. Sand explodes in the distance. Another craft didn't make it. Just gone. Nothing left but a column of smoke. You're not sure why this one is different, but your heart is suddenly hammering against your ribs, like it's trying to break out. You think about home, not for. Long just a flash. A face, a smell, a porch light. Then bang. The ramp slams down. Sunlight cuts across the dark metal box you've been trapped in. But the light doesn't bring relief. It brings bullets. The first man off the ramp crumbles. No warning, just down. The second jumps over him. He gets 2 steps before he jerks. Like a puppet, then topples into the water. Now it's your turn. There's nowhere else to go. Behind you, men are pushing forward. In front of you, the world is exploding. You jump. For a split second, you're airborne. Then you slam into the freezing water, rifle above your head, boots sinking deep into sand and mud. Something tugs. At your ankle. A current? A body? Doesn't matter. You need to move. But the water's waist deep. Your pack's too heavy. Every step is a battle. You hear screaming. Then you realize it's coming from your own mouth. You're not running into battle. You're fighting just to stay upright. And all this everything up to now, this was just the opening scene. Because the worst part of the invasion is still waiting for you up there on the beach. The water behind you is full of bodies. Some floating, some sinking, some still moving barely. But ahead of you is the beach, and that's somehow worse. The sand isn't just sand. It's a graveyard in slow motion. Shells explode in bursts that lift entire men into the air and slam them back down in pieces. The machine guns never stop. They're set high in bunkers, carved into the cliffs, spitting out fire like they've got something to prove. The MG-42, nicknamed Hitler's buzzsaw, fires 1,200 rounds a minute. It doesn't aim. It doesn't hesitate. It just devours. You scramble forward, low, slipping on the wet sand. You trip over a helmet, then a boot, and the man who owned both. There's no cover. Not yet. Not until you make it to the row of tank traps, giant steel crosses meant to rip landing craft in half. That's your first checkpoint. If you can get there, you might get a moment to breathe. Might. Bullets crack past your ear. You drop flat. A spray of sand hits your eyes, your mouth. You can taste cordite and blood. A man next to you rolls over and you see the hole in his neck. You don't have time to think about him. You can't help him. No one can. You crawl forward on your elbows, dragging your gear, your weapon, your fear. The ramp of your landing. Craft is still visible behind you, bent, smoldering. A reminder that you came from somewhere. That there was a before. Now you're in the during. Another explosion. This one lands close. Too close. Your ears pop. Everything goes silent, except for the ringing. You can't tell if you're yelling or not. You just keep moving. The tank traps are yards away now. Maybe 10? Maybe 20? You've lost all sense of distance. It might as well be a mile. Men drop beside you, hit mid-crawl. One of them tries to get up, only to get hit in. And this time, he doesn't try. Anything. You finally make it to the steel X. You huddle behind it, panting, hands shaking. For a second, you feel safe. And then you look around and realize something terrifying. There's no such thing as safe here. The tank trap doesn't stop shrapnel. It doesn't stop snipers. It doesn't stop the cold, the wet, the screaming. But it does give you enough. Time to reload. Another man dives in beside you. His hands are red. You don't ask if it's his blood or someone else's. It doesn't matter. Go, go, someone yells. It's not an officer. Just a guy like you. Another face in the mud. But it's enough to make you move again. You sprint or try to. Your legs don't work right. You're running like a newborn deer, off balance and wide-eyed. But you keep going, past more tank traps, past barbed wire, bent and tangled and rusted with what you hope is just sea salt, past the last bit of open beach before the rise. You reach a low bluff, collapse behind it. You're breathing, like a man who's just learned to value air again. Around you, others are doing the same. Some make it, some don't, and the ones who fall don't fall quietly. The ramp dropped less than 10 minutes ago. That's it. That's all. 10 minutes. And the beach has already taken hundreds. But two. Understand why it kept going, and why it only got worse from here. We have to talk about what was happening underwater, where even more men were dying before they even saw a bullet. You thought the bullets would be the worst part. But it turns out the ocean itself is trying to kill you. You're still in the shallows, trying to drag yourself forward, but every step is a betrayal. Your boots sink into the sand with a suction, grip that won't let go. Your uniform's waterlogged. Your pack weighs almost 100 pounds gear, rations, extra ammo, maybe even a flamethrower tank if you were unlucky. It's pulling you backward with every movement, like it wants you to lie down and stay down. Some men never even make it out of the water. They step off the landing ramp and vanish. Gone. Just like that. You don't even realize it at first. You think they dove, but they didn't dive. They sank. The tide pulls at them, drags them down into the deep. Boots full of seawater, lungs full of panic. The ones who struggle just burn energy faster. The ones who stop struggling go down quicker. See it happen a dozen times. A guy jumps in next to you. He's yelling. You look away for half a second, and when you look back, he's not there anymore. Gone. The water is dark and churned up with sand and blood. You can't see your own knees, let alone anyone drowning near you. So you just keep going. You don't help. You can't. You don't even look anymore. But the fear lingers. It wraps around your brain like seaweed, whispering, you might be next. And it's not just the weight, it's the cold. The North Atlantic in June is still brutally frigid. Within minutes, your muscles start locking up. Cramps in your calves. Your fingers numb on the rifle. You're shivering, and you haven't even stopped moving. Some try to ditch their packs. Makes them faster, lighter. But it also means no ammo, no rations, no shelter if they make it inland. And a few seconds later, if they're lucky enough, to crawl up into a foxhole, they'll have nothing but the wet clothes on their back. So you hold on to yours. Even if it's killing you, And then there's the bodies. You can't avoid them. They're everywhere, floating, bumping into your legs. Some are face down, some are face up, and some are still trying to call for help, even with water in their lungs and holes in their chests. It doesn't feel like a battle. It feels like a curse. One man near you gets tangled in barbed wire underwater. A German obstacle, hidden just beneath the surface. He thrashes, screaming, but it's muffled by the surf and the chaos. A medic tries to help only to take a round through the side. Now there's 2 bodies caught in the wire. The Germans knew this would happen. They planned for it. The beach was fortified not just with pillboxes and mortar, but with traps designed to kill before a single shot was fired. Metal poles wired with explosives. Wooden stakes sharpened to impale. Floating mines, waiting for boats or men to drift too close. And the tide? The tide was a trap. Command had chosen to land during a rising tide to shorten the distance from water to cover. But it also meant that obstacles were mostly submerged. The landing craft couldn't avoid them, and the men couldn't see them until it was too late. Every step forward meant stumbling over the hidden wreckage of someone else's bad luck. You finally make it to knee-deep water. Almost there. You drop to a crawl and drag yourself across the last stretch of wet sand. You don't even remember how you got to the beachhead, only that you're there, breathing, shaking, soaked through and freezing. Behind you, others are still stuck in the surf. Some are fighting. Some are floating. Some are just waiting. The ocean has taken its toll. And as you catch your breath, another sound rises over the chaos. Screaming. But not from fear. From pain. Because if you think the water was bad, wait until this. You see what the beach is really made of now. The sand is moving. Not like something alive, but like something overwhelmed. It ripples and shifts beneath boots, arms, and bodies. You look down, and the beige shoreline you imagined? It's gone. Washed out by something darker. Something slick. The beach is red, and it's not just a trick of the light. It's blood. Thick pools of it, soaking into uniforms, staining rifles, making the sand stick to your skin like glue. You crawl forward, and your hands come up sticky. You try to wipe them clean. There's nowhere to wipe. Your sleeves are worse, and there's no time to care. Men are screaming, not yelling, not shouting orders, screaming. You hear a sound that doesn't make sense at first. High-pitched whine like tearing metal. Then someone a few yards away collapses, clutching his leg. The bone is poking out. You don't even know if it was a mine or a mortar, or maybe just bad luck. You want to look away, but you don't. Because if you stop paying attention, you're next. All around you, soldiers crawl through this mess. Their faces covered in soot and fear, some still clutching at their weapons like it matters. Some are just crawling without direction. One of them drags his buddy by the straps of his gear, even though half the guy's face is missing. Another holds his guts in with one hand and reaches out with the other. You can't help them. Nobody can. The beach doesn't care. Shells explode. Behind you, machine guns open up again. The sand leaps skyward. Every impact sends a spray of dirt and bone into the air. Sometimes it's just debris. Sometimes it's not. You keep your head low and your stomach lower. And then you feel it heat. A fire's broken out. Something behind you is burning. Could be a landing craft hit by artillery. Could be a man's body catching from the explosion. The wind carries the smoke across your path. It stings your eyes. You blink, trying to see. But honestly, what would you even want to see? A man just ahead of you is sitting upright. Not crawling, not hiding. Just sitting, staring at nothing. You crawl up to him, grab his arm. He doesn't move. You look closer, and realize his whole front side is missing. He's somehow still upright. You leave him there, because you have to keep moving. And here's the thing about crawling through a beach full of bodies and blood. Eventually, it stops bothering you. That's what scares you the most. You start stepping over corpses like driftwood. You stop reacting to the screams. You start hoping the next mortar hits just far enough away that you can use the crater for cover, because there is no back, no retreat, no pause button. You're here, and the only direction is forward. A burst of gunfire cuts across the path just ahead of you. Another soldier, a kid, really drops, flailing, twisting onto his side. He starts crawling again, slower now, dragging himself with one arm. You look away. Again. You're starting to do that a lot. The beach isn't just red anymore. It's alive. It's screaming, writhing, pulsing with misery. It's covered in movement, but almost none of it voluntary. And up ahead, still waiting, still untouched, are the German bunkers. Concrete fortresses with murder holes carved into their faces. They're built to survive anything. And they're manned by soldiers who've had years to practice. What they're doing to you right now. You're not even at the base of the cliffs yet. And if you think this is rock bottom, you haven't met what comes next. Because the human body can only take so much chaos before it starts to break in ways you don't see. Until it's too late. There's no warning. 1 second you're crawling. The next, the entire world splits open. A mortar lands 20 feet away, close enough to throw you sideways. You feel the shockwave in your ribs. Your vision goes white, then black, then comes back slowly, like your brain isn't sure if it wants to return. Your ears ring. Not just a high tone, it's a full-body hum that drowns everything out. You can't hear the gunfire. You can't hear the screams. Just that deep bone shaking. You blink. Everything's spinning. You try to stand, but your legs don't work right. You fall to your knees and vomit into the sand. Welcome to shell shock. They won't call it PTSD for decades. Back now, it's called battle fatigue, or nerves, or just cracking. But it's real, and it's everywhere. You see it in the man rocking back and forth next to a severed arm. You see it in the soldier curled into a ball with his hands over his ears, shouting, "Mom," over and over. You feel it creeping into your own head. That fuzzy, disconnected sense that none of this can possibly be real. That this isn't happening to you. That maybe you're dreaming. But you're not. Your hands are shaking. You can't grip your rifle. Your legs are still moving barely, but they feel like they belong to someone else. Your vision narrows to a tunnel. Your breath is shallow and fast. And the worst part? You're still exposed. Because the bunkers don't stop firing. The mortar don't stop falling. The chaos doesn't take a break just because your brain is overloaded. You snap back when a hand grabs your shoulder. A corporal yells something at you, face inches from yours. You can't hear him, but you get the message. Move. So you move. One boot at a time, you force yourself back to the crawl, back to the stagger. You reach another patch of twisted metal and collapsed gear and duck behind it. It's not cover. Not really, but it's something. Someone nearby is screaming. You glance over and see a man clutching his own arm, blood jetting out in pulses. You fumble for your field dressing. Your hands can't open the pouch. They're still shaking. The man bleeds out before you can even get the wrap unrolled. You freeze, stare. The screaming stopped. So has he. You want to cry. You don't. There's no time for that here. Instead, you crawl again, toward a shallow pit dug out by a previous explosion. You dive into it, heart pounding. There are 2 other soldiers already there, one with a bandage around his head, soaked through. He smiles at you. It's not a sane smile. "Welcome to the party," he says. Or maybe you imagined it. It's hard to tell. You lie back for a second. Just 1 second. You stare up at the sky and try to make your hands stop shaking. They won't. You wonder if this is what breaking feels like. Because your body's still here. Your legs still move. Your rifle still fires. But part of you is somewhere else. Somewhere deep and buried. Somewhere that won't come back. And you're not alone. All around you are men just like you. Walking. Wounded of the mind. Some will keep going. Some won't. Some will shut down completely. Sit down and stare until a bullet puts them to sleep. And here's the part they don't tell you in the movies. The worst trauma doesn't come after the battle. It happens during. While you're still fighting. While you're still pretending you're okay. While your brain is quietly unraveling. Behind your eyes. You thought the beach was chaos. The real chaos is in your head. And while you're busy keeping yourself from falling apart, you're about to stumble into a new kind of horror. Crawling through the bodies of your friends, looking for one who might still be breathing. There's a moment somewhere between the ringing in your ears and the numbness in your legs where you realize what you're crawling through. It's not just sand, not just mud, not just debris. It's people. You're not running to cover. You're climbing over it. And cover, in this case, means what used to be men. Some are face down. Some are face up. Some are still blinking. You try not to look, but the human eye is drawn to motion. And there's always motion. A twitching hand, a jaw chewing at air, eyes darting around, searching for help that isn't coming. You crawl forward, dragging your knees through a patch of red-soaked ground, and your hand slips. You look down. It's not mud. It's an open wound. A thigh. The man's still alive. Barely. He grabs at your sleeve. His mouth moves. No sound comes out. You freeze. And then you lie. It's okay. You tell him. Help's coming. You? No, it isn't. But you say it anyway. Then you move on. Another man is calling out names. Not commands. Just names. Danny. He yells. Danny, where are you? His face is streaked with tears, dust, and ash. You recognize the look. He's already grieving. He just hasn't found the body yet. The ones who aren't crying are worse. Silent. Hollow-eyed. Some are crawling in circles. Some are still trying to fire their weapons at bunkers that are long out of range. There's no room for dignity here. You see a man with no pants, dragging. Himself with his elbows, blood pouring from what's left of his stomach. He doesn't notice, or care. And the smell. You thought you were used to it. But this is something new. Something sour, metallic, rotting. It clings to everything. Your uniform, your hands, your teeth. When you breathe through your nose, it burns. When you breathe through your mouth, you taste it. There's a body next to you with no head. Just a helmet lying beside it, like it rolled off. You look away, only to find something worse. You reach a cluster of crater shell holes, filled with men hiding, shooting, screaming. One of them waves you over. You drop in. It's deeper than you expected. The man inside is pressing a bandage to his gut. Where's the medic? He asks. You don't know. You don't even know if there are medics left. So you do what he does. Press down. Try to help. You say something, anything. You don't even know what it is. Then a whistle. Not from a person, from a shell. You throw yourself flat just as the next explosion rips into the earth nearby. Dirt rains down on you. You don't look up. You don't move. You just lie there, pressed against the warm, shaking ground, listening to the man beside you wheeze. Until he stops. You keep moving. You have to. And now, ahead of you, You see something that almost feels like hope, a cluster of men dug in behind sandbags. Maybe they've made progress. Maybe this is the point where things start to turn. But as you crawl toward them, a wall of fire erupts. Flamethrower. The Germans have spotted the cluster, and they're not using bullets this time. They're using fire. The screams cut through everything. The ringing in your ears, the gunshots, the thunder of artillery, all of it fades beneath the human sound of someone burning alive. You stop moving. Everyone stops moving. For just 1 second. Then the shouting starts again. Orders, warnings, cries for water, for help, for anything. But there's no help here. No relief. You lie flat against the earth, trying to convince yourself you didn't see that it was smoke, that it was anything else. But it wasn't. And the fire is still coming. You pull yourself backward, away from the heat, away from the pit, away from the horror. Your stomach turns. Your hands tremble. You taste bile in your throat. You thought bullets were the worst thing waiting on this beach. You were wrong, because the enemy has more than bullets, and they're just getting started. You find a hole, not a trench, just a crater, blasted into the earth by some forgotten shell. It's barely wide enough to lie in, but it's deep enough to hide you. For now, you collapse into it like it's the softest bed you've ever known. Your heart is thudding in your ears. You can't hear anything else, not the shouting, not the gunfire, just your heartbeat loud and fast, like it's trying to escape your chest. But the fire's not far. You peek over the edge of your makeshift foxhole and see it. A burst of orange leaping from a nozzle, licking across the sandbags you were heading toward just moments earlier. The German soldier behind the weapon is distant but unmistakable. Tall silhouette, metal tank on his back, and in his hands, the fire of hell itself. Flamethrowers aren't like in the movies. They don't spray for long, just a few seconds. But that's all it takes. The flame sticks. It crawls. It finds. Seams in clothing, seeps into boots, ignites rucksacks full of ammo. It turns cover into a trap. The men hit by it don't die instantly. They writhe. They scream until their voices give out. And if you've never heard what that sounds like, be glad. The worst part? There's nothing you can do. You can't shoot a stream of fire. You can't outrun it. You can barely even look at it. And if the wind shifts, you'll feel it. The heat, the smoke, the scent of burning canvas and flesh. You duck back down into your hole. Try not to breathe too deep. Try not to think about what's happening just 50 yards away. Someone drops into the crater beside you. His face is ash gray. He's shaking. You don't recognize him, and he doesn't recognize you. But you both know the same thing. This isn't war. This is slaughter. He's mumbling. You lean closer. They lit up my whole squad, he whispers. Didn't even see them coming. You nod. What else can you do? Outside, the flamethrower stops. Silence for a moment. Then a new sound boots. Running. Yelling. Another squad advancing, trying to take the position. Maybe they'll succeed. Maybe they'll be lit up too. You check your ammo. 1 full mag. A few loose rounds in your pouch. You've fired more than you realized. You think about shooting back. But at what? You can't even see the enemy. Just the results of what they're doing. The guy next to you starts praying. Quietly. Not for himself. For someone named Lucy. Then, footsteps again. Not running this time. Slow, crunching gravel and debris. Getting closer. You raise your rifle. Point it toward the rim of the crater. Hold your breath. A shadow appears. And a helmet. You almost fire. But it's one of your own. Mud-streaked. Face, wild eyes, uniform half burned. He looks down at you like he's seen a ghost. Maybe he has. Get up, he says. We're moving. You stare at him. Where? Doesn't matter, he says. Just not here. You pull yourself out of the crater. Your limbs feel like they're made of wood. Every movement aches. The three of you move forward together. Toward what? You don't know. Another position. Another hole. Another nightmare. The beach is a long way behind you now. The bunkers are still ahead. The fire hasn't stopped. And you're just starting to understand something grim. There's no such thing as surviving this without scars. Because even if you dodge the bullets and outrun the fire, even if you make it to the top of that bluff, you'll carry this with you forever. But you're not there yet. And you haven't eaten. Haven't slept. Haven't even blinked without seeing flames. Welcome to the part of war where survival is just another word for suffering. The fight drags you inland, but it doesn't feel like progress. There's no celebration. No line you cross that says, "Congratulations, you survived the beach." Just more crawling, more staggering, more ducking behind what used to be trees, walls, vehicles, or people. And as the gunfire slows and shifts behind you, a new enemy emerges, one even quieter, even crueler. Exhaustion. You haven't eaten. You haven't had water since before the landing. You don't know what time it is. You're not even sure what day it is. The sun's high, but that means nothing now. You could have sworn this was going to be over in an hour. Instead, you're crouched in a foxhole with three other men. One's wounded, one's asleep, one's staring into space. You can't tell if he's thinking or just empty. You check your canteen. Bone dry. No one brought full meals into Normandy. Just rations. Crackers. Powdered coffee. Chocolate. But that stuff's gone now, either dropped in the surf or ruined in the packs, soaked with seawater and blood. The only thing you've tasted all day is smoke, sweat, and whatever's been kicked into your face by the boots ahead of you. You feel lightheaded. Your legs keep cramping. Your mouth so dry, your lips have started to crack and bleed. You find a puddle in the ground. It's in the bottom of a crater. You dip your fingers in just to wet your tongue. The water tastes like rust and dirt. You don't care. You drink it anyway. Another man stops you. That's probably got fuel in it, he warns. You drink it anyway, because you need something, anything. But food and water are just part of it. Your body's failing in other ways too. Your uniform's soaked through. You're sitting in wet fabric that's been rubbing your skin raw for hours. Your boots squish with every step, and your socks haven't been dry since before you hit the beach. Your feet are starting to swell. Your fingers are going numb. You don't know if it's cold or nerve damage or some early sign of something worse. Your hands tremble as you reload your rifle. Not from fear this time, from weakness. You finally find a few dry crackers in someone's pack. He's dead. You don't ask permission. You just eat. They crumble in your mouth like dust. You have nothing to wash them down with. You chew anyway. You look around, see a soldier chewing grass. Another one poking at a German's pocket for cigarettes or chocolate. Anything to keep the edge off. You used to think hunger was just about your stomach. Now it's in your bones. And the shaking? It doesn't stop. Not when the mortar land again. Not when a commander yells for a push toward the hedgerows. Not when someone screams that the tanks are stuck and air support isn't coming. You're operating on fumes. Less than fumes. On willpower alone. And still the orders come. Up the ridge. Flank left. Hold this position. You obey because there's nothing else to do. You obey because thinking is harder than walking now. And the longer you go without rest, the more your brain starts to rebel. You start seeing things, faces in the trees, movement in the fog. You shoot at shadows. You speak to people who aren't there. You forget why you're even here. One man near you starts laughing. Just laughing. Everyone else ignores it. That's not the strangest thing anyone's done today. By nightfall, the real nightmare begins. Because once the sun goes down, you can't see the enemy anymore. But they're still watching, still waiting, still sending out patrols, still firing flares into the sky to light you up like a target. You try to close your eyes for a second. Just a second. But every time you blink, you see the beach again. You hear the fire, the screams. You remember the man sitting upright with half his body gone. The kid calling for Danny. The puddle you drank that tasted like metal and gasoline. And suddenly, the worst part isn't what you're feeling. It's that you're starting not to feel anything at all. But tomorrow, they'll tell you to push again. And you will. Because not moving forward isn't an option. Even if your body has nothing left. And medics are everywhere and nowhere. You see them in Flash's armbands, smeared with blood. Packs bulging with supplies they no longer have. They move like ghosts between craters, bent low, dragging stretchers, shouting for help that doesn't come. You try to wave one down. He looks at you, eyes red and glassy, and just shakes his head. No more fine, he says. Used it all. You swallow. Hard. Then nod like that's normal. Like that makes sense. But it doesn't. It means the next man they patch up, if he's still breathing, gets no relief, no numbness. Just the full, sharp edge of whatever's happened to his body. You see one such man. He's been hit in the lower back. Not clean, not quick. A piece of shrapnel, maybe. The medic crouches beside him, checking his pulse, muttering under his breath. Then he pulls out a small cloth and bites it. Not for the wounded man, for himself. He grabs a pair of scissors and starts cutting away fabric. A wounded soldier is biting his own fist, trying not to scream. You look away. Again, but the sound follows you. There's a new kind of helplessness when you realize the people trained to fix, you can't do much more than hold your hand and say, breathe. Because when the morphine's gone, pain becomes a prison, and every new wound is a fresh sentence. You pass another medic, this one sitting against a stone wall, covered in someone else's blood. He's not moving. His hands are folded in his lap like he's praying, but his eyes are open and empty. You're not sure if he's resting, broken or already gone. You move on. You find a small aid station, if you can call it that. It's just a dugout behind some rubble, with a red cross made of ripped cloth flapping limply in the breeze. Inside, there are half a dozen wounded soldiers' legs missing, arms gone, eyes swollen shut. The stench is unbearable. Blood, sweat, infection. A medic kneels beside one man with a tourniquet, muttering, "We'll get you out. Just hold on." But you both know that's probably a lie. Evac isn't coming today. Maybe not tomorrow either. The beachhead's barely secured. The front line is chaos. There's no clear path to safety. And the sky is still full of planes dropping steel in the wrong places. The medic looks up at you. "You hurt?" he asks. You shake your head. "Then grab a canteen and help me hold this one down." You do as you're told. The wounded man starts to thrash the moment the knife comes out. He knows what's about to happen. There's no anesthesia. Just hands, pressure, and the kind of pain that makes a man forget his name. You hold him down while he screams. Afterward, you stumble away, shaking. You're not even the one who got caught, but it feels like something inside you was opened anyway. This is the new normal. No clean bandages, no sterile tools, no stretchers that aren't broken, no antiseptic, no morphine, just screaming. And when you finally lie down in a shell crater for a rest, something sharp jabs your side. You reach into your jacket and pull out your own field dressing. Still sealed, untouched. You hold it for a long time, thinking. Then you stuff it back into your pocket, because sooner or later you'll need it, and no one else will have one to spare. You'd think the sky would be the one thing you could count on, but it's not on your side either. Every time you look up, it's a gamble. Sometimes it's cloudy. Sometimes it's clear. Sometimes it's full of planes, and when it is, you don't know if they're yours or the enemy's. And even if they are yours, that doesn't always mean safety, because friendly fire is a thing, and the sky doesn't know whose side it's on. You remember this one moment. Afternoon, maybe? Time has no shape anymore, but it's light enough to see the incoming streaks. You're crouched behind a wall with a few other guys, watching black specks swarm above like flies. A wave of bombers. Allied. American. Someone. Cheers. But then the wind shifts, and the bombs fall too early. You watch as the first line of impacts hits behind the German lines, then creeps forward. Fast. Too fast. They're off target. Way off. They're hitting your side now. The cheering stops. Suddenly, it's raining metal. You hit the dirt as the entire horizon erupts. Earth jumps. Air turns to fire. Stone and soil and human remains launch into the sky like confetti. You cover your helmet, your neck, your ears like that's going to do anything. Then a roar louder than anything you've ever heard before. Not one explosion. A rolling one, like thunder inside your skull. And just like that, the foxhole next to yours is gone. Gone. Just an empty gouge where a second ago, men were talking. Smoking, one even laughing. Now nothing. The dust doesn't settle. It hangs. Thick. Suffocating. You're coughing, but you can't stop. You're breathing in powdered brick, burnt cloth, maybe worse. The planes pass. Just a few minutes of bombing. But the ground is mangled. Your ears won't stop ringing. And the guys that survived? They're furious. Devastated. Some are yelling at the sky like it can hear them. Drop it on the enemy next time. But it's not always the bombers. Sometimes it's artillery fire. The coordinates are wrong. The smoke is too thick. A round meant for the German pillboxes lands on your position instead. Sometimes it's machine guns. A trigger-happy squad fires on a figure moving through the trees. It turns out to be one of your own. Sometimes it's nothing at all, just chaos. A tank rolls over a man in the dark. He never saw it coming. Neither did the driver. The problem isn't carelessness. It's confusion. Because there's no clarity in Normandy. No perfect line between them and us. No GPS. No drone footage. Just mud, smoke, shouting, and hope. And you start to notice something twisted. You're just as afraid of the sky now as you are of the bunkers. You see a plane you're playing, and instead of feeling relief, you freeze. You hold your breath. You wait to see which side of the map it's about to erase. Some men joke about painting "Don't shoot" on their helmets. Nobody laughs. You talk to a guy who watched his whole unit get hit by friendly fire. "I saw more blue eyes in that blast than gray," he says. Then he spits into the mud and goes back to loading his rifle. Another soldier near you has a bandage over one eye and a haunted look. He was hit by shrapnel from an Allied shell. He doesn't blame anyone. He just sits quietly, tracing something into the dirt with his thumb, over and over. When night falls, it's even worse. The sky lights up with tracer rounds, flares, and parachute bombs. You can't sleep. You can barely breathe. Every sound from above makes you flinch. You dream about bombs falling sideways, about your own planes turning on you. And even if you survive the next day, if you make it through without a scratch, there's a growing voice in your head whispering, It might not be the enemy who gets you, and that's when it hits you. You're not just fighting the Germans. You're fighting the elements, the confusion, the misfires, the sky, and all of it is just as deadly. You finally stumble into what used to be a village, or maybe a farm. Hard to tell. The buildings are just skeletons, now stone walls cracked open, roofs caved in, smoke curling from still burning rafters. Whatever this place was, it's been shredded, beyond recognition by days of artillery and hours of rifle fire. But it's not empty. Civilians are here. You see them in doorways, behind shattered windows, crouching in basements. A child peeks out from under a wooden table in a half-collapsed house, eyes wide, face smudged with soot. A woman sits nearby holding a blanket. It's not until you're closer that you realize the bundle isn't moving. You don't ask questions. They weren't supposed to be here. They were supposed to evacuate. That's what command told you, but nobody told them. Or maybe they didn't have time. Maybe they didn't have anywhere to go. Now they're caught in the middle. Not quite enemy, not quite ally. Just stuck. You step over rubble and duck into a room that used to be a kitchen. A man sits at the table. An old man. He doesn't look at you. Just keeps stirring a cup of something, coffee, maybe. Water. Mud. Doesn't matter. The cup is cracked. So is he. Another soldier warns you. Watch out for the barns. Could be Germans hiding. Could be families. That's the problem. You don't know which buildings are safe, which doors hold scared civilians, and which ones hide snipers. So you approach every corner like it's a trap. Sometimes it is. You pass a barn and hear crying. Inside, 3 children huddle in the straw, silent except for the youngest, who sobs quietly into his sister's shoulder. They flinch when you enter. You lower your weapon and hold out your hand. They don't move. You leave them be. Outside, someone yells for a medic. Another shell hits nearby. The woman with the blanket screams, but she doesn't move. She just clutches tighter. These people have nothing. No food, no water, no heat. They're surviving on scraps and shadows. One man is digging through rubble with his bare hands, pulling out what looks like a can of beans. He grins. Then he starts coughing and doesn't stop. The air here isn't clean. It's full of ash, dust, and something chemical. You try not to breathe too deep. One of your squad mates points to a half-buried body in civilian clothes. Wrong place, wrong time, he mutters. They always are. You nod. It's the only thing to say. You thought this was a battlefield, a clash between armies, but it's also a neighborhood. And now it's a ruin. There's a chapel at the center of town. At least it used to be. Now the steeple's cracked in half, and the stained glass is just glittering shards in the mud. But people are still gathering there. For shelter, for prayer, for something to hold on to. You step inside and see the benches lined with the wounded, the sick, the terrified. No one says a word. The silence in here is worse than the noise outside. You drop off what little you can spare, an unopened ration, a dry pair of socks, a canteen with a few sips left. A woman thanks you in French. You don't understand the words, but you know exactly what she means. You leave the chapel with something heavy in your chest. Guilt. Because no matter what happens next, no matter how many bunkers you take or lines you push forward, these people are still trapped. And they'll be here long after the last bullets. Fired, waiting to rebuild a town that's no longer standing. But before that comes the next horror, the kind that doesn't wait for you to drop your guard. Because someone's watching from the steeple, and they're not praying. You don't notice the first shot. It's quiet, precise. No screaming, no explosion. Just the dull crack of a high-powered rifle far enough away that it takes a second to register. Then a man next to you drops. He doesn't scream, doesn't twitch, just falls. At first, you think he tripped. Maybe exhaustion, maybe shock, but then you see the hole, right through the center of his helmet. And then the panic sets in. Sniper! Everyone ducks. You press yourself against the nearest wall, heart slamming against your ribs like it wants out. The village that was already a nightmare has just become a maze of death traps. Because now, every window is a threat. Every cracked shutter, every hole in the roof, every shadow behind a curtain. You flatten yourself against the wall and scan the buildings across the street. They look empty, too empty. But someone's in there, watching, choosing. You're not in a firefight anymore. You're in a hunt. But you're the one being hunted. Another shot. This time it hits the stone near your head. You feel the impact through your helmet. You don't stay to look. You dive behind the nearest pile of rubble. A sergeant barks orders. It eyes on the shooter. But no one knows where to look. Snipers are patient, surgical, invisible until it's too late. You peek out for half a second. Just a glimpse, then duck. Nothing. You try again. Their movement. The flash of a rifle barrel in the third-story window of a crumbling house. It disappears just as fast. You call it out. Another soldier beside you lifts his rifle, aims, and fires. But there's no scream, no fall, just silence. Snipers don't miss. You do. So you wait. And every second drips like water torture. Because now you're scared to move, scared to breathe, scared to stand. The entire squad is pinned down by one. Ghost with a scope. You shift positions, crawling low. Another soldier tries to run to cover and gets clipped in the leg. He falls hard, cries out, rolls behind a cart. You watch him clutch his thigh. You want to help, but stepping out means dying. The sniper waits for that kind of bravery. Another flash. This time it's different. It's not from the window. It's from the steeple, the church, the one you just left, the one full of civilians. You curse under your breath and scan the tower. He's in there. Has to be. And that's when the decision lands in your lap like a live grenade. Do you return fire? What if there are still civilians inside? What if he's using them as cover? Your commanding officer calls for suppression fire on the tower. You obey. You all do. Rifles bark. The stone chips. The glass shatters. But no one falls. He's still in there. A few men circle around the side of the church. They breach from the back. Minutes tick by. Shots ring out inside. Then silence. Then a signal. Clear. You approach slowly, weapon raised. Inside, the pews are splintered, the walls scorched. The sniper lies at the altar, half covered in debris. His rifle is still in his hands. His eyes are open. There's no satisfaction. No victory. Just the horrible realization that he picked. This place, this sacred place for a reason. Because he knew you wouldn't want to shoot back. He was counting on that hesitation. He almost made it work. You exit the church and look around the town. It's quiet again, but not safe. Because this was just one. And there are dozens more like him. In every window. Behind every stone. Up in every tree, waiting for you to blink first. And the worst part? Tomorrow, you'll be the one ordered to take up a position and watch, not because you want to, but because now you know it works. You were told that the Germans might surrender, that once the beach was taken and the bunkers cleared, they'd give up and retreat inland. But they didn't. They're still here, still firing. Still fighting like they've got nowhere left to go. and some of them do it with a kind of desperation you weren't prepared for. You advance past another ruined building, stepping over shattered stone and spent shells. A machine gun opens up close, too close. You dive behind a wrecked cart, heart racing, bullets tearing into the wood like it's paper. You return fire, but it's blind. You don't know where they are exactly. Somewhere in the hedgerows, maybe. Behind a haystack or a wall, or a cellar entrance covered in vines. One of your guys tosses a grenade. Silence follows. You wait, then creep forward. The machine gun is still there, but so are the gunners. One slumped over the weapon, the other's missing half a leg and still reaching for his sidearm. He sees you. You raise your rifle, but he doesn't fire. He just stares. And that look half rage, half surrender freezes your trigger finger. You kick the weapon away and move on. Because what else can you do? The Germans aren't retreating. They're dying in place. Fighting house to house. Tree to tree. Bunker to trench. They know the terrain. You don't. And worse, they've had years to prepare. You've had a few months of briefings and sand table diagrams. And no map you studied warned you about this. You move into a field and hit the dirt as shots crack from the tree line. Again, always from the trees, always from the shadows. A squad mate screams. You drag him back, blood trailing behind like paint. He's whispering something over and over. They won't quit. They won't quit. You believe him. Later, you find a farmhouse rigged with explosives. A tripwire across the door. Someone triggers it. No survivors. The building collapses in a thunderclap. The debris rains down. You feel it in your chest. You think maybe they gave up too soon. Maybe they thought this place was finally clear. It wasn't. You meet prisoners eventually. Not many. Some are kids. Literally kids 17, maybe. Shell-shocked, pale, eyes sunken. One has a photo of his family tucked into his jacket. Another has nothing but dirt under his nails and dried blood on his sleeves. They look at you like animals in a trap. Some cry, some beg. One just stands there, silent, staring through you like you don't exist. You wonder what they've seen, what they've done. Then there are the ones who don't want to be taken alive. You breach a basement. Inside are 3 Germans. One raises his hands. The second fires at your lead man. The third grabs a grenade and pulls the pin. You run. The blast throws you against a wall. When you come to, your ears are bleeding. The others aren't moving. This is what fighting the enemy to the last breath looks like. It's not honor. It's not courage. It's desperation. And it means there's no such thing as behind the lines. No place that's actually safe. Even when you think you've secured a building, you double-check. Then you triple-check. Then you sleep with one eye open, if you sleep at all. Because there's always one more soldier tucked into an attic. One more sniper buried in a ditch. One more grenade waiting for the wrong step. And they're not giving up. Not because they think they can win, but because they don't know how to stop. You think that'll bring relief. No bombers, no artillery. No more sun roasting your helmet. Just quiet, darkness, maybe even rest. But nighttime in Normandy isn't peaceful. It's worse. Because that's when the memories show up. You're lying in a shallow depression mud for a mattress. Your pack for a pillow. The stars are out, but you don't care. The ground smells like rot and burnt rubber. Every few minutes, you flinch, thinking you hear a shell coming. But it's just wind, or rats, or your own heartbeat. You close your eyes, and immediately, you're back on the boat. The ramp's dropping. The bullets are flying. The beach is red. You can hear the screaming again, as real and loud as when it happened. You open your eyes, still dark, still in Normandy, still alive. You try again. This time, you see the guy in the foxhole next to you. The one who begged for morphine. The one who didn't make it. You didn't have anything to give him at your hand. You hear him asking if you're still there. You blink. You are. But only barely. Sleep isn't rest anymore. It's a rerun of every second you've been trying to forget. You roll over, trying to find a dry patch of earth. There isn't one. The whole place is wet, cold, and vibrating with distant artillery. You're not even on the front line anymore. The push has moved ahead. But your body hasn't caught up. It still thinks it's under fire. You twitch at every sound. A twig snapping sends your pulse into a sprint. A rustle in the bushes has you reaching for your rifle before you're even awake. One soldier nearby snores. Another talks in his sleep. You can't tell what he's saying, but the tone sounds like pleading. You don't wake him. You understand. Across from you, a new guy stares up at the sky, eyes wide. He's maybe 19. Baby face, uniform too big for him. He looks at you and says, "I didn't think it'd be like this." You nod. No one did. He doesn't blink. I keep hearing them. Who? Everyone. The ones from the boat, from the beach. I see them every time I close my eyes. You don't tell him it'll get better. You know it won't. Not here. Not anytime soon. Someone fumbles with a cigarette, the spark briefly lighting a circle of haunted faces. Smoke curls into the air like a prayer. Then silence again. Except it's never really silent. The shells don't stop completely. They just get farther away. Like a storm rolling off, but never fully leaving. Somewhere nearby, a man is crying, quietly, like he's trying to make the sound disappear into the dirt. You don't ask who. You don't say anything. You just listen. Because everyone cries eventually, you're no longer surprised by it. In fact, you're more surprised by the ones who don't. You lie there for hours, half asleep, half alert, trying to rest in a place designed to deny it. And when the morning finally comes, your body feels heavier, your thoughts fuzzier, your hands still shaking from dreams you couldn't escape. Another soldier mutters, "Sun's up." You don't answer. You just sit up, wipe the grime from your eyes, and pick up your rifle. Because even though it's a new day, it's just the same nightmare. And the worst part? You'll take it over the nights. Any day. You don't know when it started, but the smell has become a part of you. It's everywhere. In your clothes, your hair, your skin, your breath. It's rot. It's fuel. It's blood. It's the sour stench of fear sweating out of men who haven't had a clean shirt or a clean conscience in days. It's metal and mud and the unmistakable sting of something burned wood, fabric, flesh. You stopped trying to block it out. Now you just breathe it in and keep moving. Because there's no such thing as fresh air anymore. You march forward, or what passes for marching now, stumbling mostly, through hedgerows choked with flies and fields littered with blackened craters. There's no path, no trail, just the memory of a road that used to exist before the tanks rolled through and the artillery turned the earth inside out. Every time you step, something crunches. Sometimes it's a branch, sometimes it's not. And that smell, that thick, bitter stench, it clings to you more than any mud. You taste it when you eat. You dream of it when you sleep. It's soaked into your blanket, your pack, the bandage around your knee. You pass the carcass of a cow-half, its ribs showing, flies buzzing like a siren. One of the guys ahead of you gags. Another makes a joke. Something about steak. No one laughs. Not because it's cruel, but because there's no energy left for laughing. A few yards later, you step around the body of a German soldier. He's been there a while. His helmet's missing. His boots are gone, someone probably took them. His fingers are black and curled. You stop feeling sick after the 10th one. Now it's just normal. You wonder what people back home would say if they saw this. Not the newspaper version, not the official photos, but this. You pass a ditch where someone's buried a dozen men in a shallow heap. A few helmets mark the edge. No names, no flags. Just lumps of dirt that used to breathe and speak and bleed. You don't know if they're Americans, Germans, French. At this point, you don't ask. They're just gone. One of the new recruits pulls out a cloth and presses it over his nose. He says he can't take the smell. You want to tell him it won't help. That nothing helps. That even if he washes his face every day for the rest of his life, he'll still wake up smelling it sometimes. But you say nothing, because you're too busy trying to remember what clean air even smelled like. You get to a small hill and drop down beside a fallen wall. You're not in combat, at least not right now, but your instincts don't care. Every piece of cover looks like a blessing. Every open space looks like a setup. You rest just for a moment, and you notice it again. The smell isn't just outside you now. It's you. Your jacket reeks. Your boots smell like wet death. Your breath makes the man next to you flinch when you talk. You haven't bathed in a week. You've sweated through everything you own. Your skin has started to itch from the grime crusting your pores. You feel like something crawling out of a trench, because that's exactly where. You lie there, listening to the wind drag the stench of death across the countryside, like a blanket. And you realize something. You'll carry this with you forever. Not just the smell, the way it feels to live in it, the way it seeps into your memory, into your dreams, into your bones. One day, they'll say you are brave, that you helped liberate France, that you faced the worst of it and kept moving. But they won't mention this part. They won't say that the whole world reeked of rot and fear, and that even years later, when the medals are handed out and the speeches are made, you'll still catch a whiff of something, maybe diesel fuel, or old socks, or wet leaves, and your whole body will lock up. Because that smell isn't just around you. It is you now. You try to stand, but your boots don't cooperate. The skin on your feet has started to fuse with your socks. Every step feels like peeling bark off a tree, layers of skin sloughing off with each pull. You haven't taken them off in days. You can't. Not because you're too busy, but because you're terrified of what you'll find underneath. And it's not just you. One guy in your squad, everyone calls him Mac, tries to change his socks. You all told him not to. Leave him on, someone said. At least they're holding the pieces together. But he didn't listen. He pulls them off, and the smell hits like a punch. You can see bone through the heel. His toes are black. He doesn't even flinch. Just stares at it like it's not part of him anymore. The medic takes one look and says, "Wrap it. You're walking on that till we get out of here." Trench foot, infection, blisters that turn into open sores. You name it, someone has it. You'd kill for a dry pair of socks. You'd trade your rifle, your rations, maybe even your dog tags. But there aren't any. What you've got is what you wear. And what you wear is slowly eating you alive. Your boots are waterlogged. Your toenails are dark and soft. Your soles are covered in angry red lines where the fabric rubs every time you move. You try walking differently. Doesn't matter. The pain follows. At night, you take off your boots just long enough to let your feet breathe. Not for comfort, but because the pressure inside them feels like your skin is being strangled. You fall asleep with your feet elevated on your pack. Doesn't help. You wake up with cramps and stabbing pain. Sometimes you dream about walking, barefoot on cool grass. Then you wake up, and you're still here, still in Normandy, still sinking deeper into your own rut. Someone ahead of you trips in a ditch and doesn't get up. At first, you think he's been shot. But no, he's just done. His feet gave out. They're swollen like sausages, blue around the toes. He can't even crawl. You help lift him under the arms and drag him to cover. He doesn't say thank you. He doesn't say anything, because there's nothing left to say. The medics wrap what they can. Field dressings over trench foot, gauze on blisters. But most of it's just damage control. One guy tries to make a joke. Suppose if we all lose our feet, maybe we get out of here early. No one laughs. You start to wonder if you'll even want your feet when this is over. Because they're not the same anymore. They're not part of you. Just tools of punishment that have to carry you through one more day of misery. You remember what someone told you before you shipped out. Take care of your feet, and they'll take care of you. Too late for that now. You get up, slowly, stiffly. Every step is fire, but there's no time to rest. Because the captain says you've got to take that ridge by nightfall. And if you don't, the next company will have to step over your body to try. So you grit your teeth, slide your boots back on, and feel the pain bloom fresh and hot. It's not courage. It's survival. And that survival is built on feet that are falling apart one blood-soaked step at a time. You didn't ask to be in charge, but now you are. You're not even sure when it happened. Could have been yesterday. Could have been 5 minutes ago. All you know is the lieutenant's gone. The sergeant too. Maybe a landmine. Maybe sniper. Fire. Maybe they're still lying out there somewhere, face down in the mud, part of the growing landscape of uniforms and silence. Someone points at you and says, "What now?" And suddenly, that's your job. You look around. There's 5 of you left from a squad that started with 12. 2 are wounded. 1 won't stop shaking. And now they're all waiting for you to say something that sounds like a plan. You swallow. You've never led anyone. Not in combat. Not like this. You remember a training manual that said something about chain of command. But this chain has snapped, and the weight is hanging from your shoulders. So you say the only thing you can. We move at dawn. And just like that, they nod. Number. Questions, no argument. Because in war, even a bad plan sounds better than no plan. You try to remember the map, the objective, the last set of orders before everything went to hell. You piece it together from memory, from instinct, from the quiet desperation in everyone's eyes. Then you move out. It's not strategy. It's survival math. That building looks like decent cover. That hill gives a better line of sight. That guy's limping. He needs to go in the middle. The one with steady hands takes point. You make decisions you never wanted to make. Who scouts ahead? Who stays behind with the wounded? Who carries the radio? Who doesn't? You see it in their faces. They're not sure if they trust you, but they want to, because someone has to lead. And right now, it's you. Then the shots come again. You hit the dirt. You yell directions: flank left, stay low, lay suppressing fire. The words just come. Not from knowledge, from fear. You watch one guy move just a little too slow. He goes down. Now there's 4. One of them calls out, "What do we do?" You say, "We keep going." And you do. Every time you make a choice, it's a gamble. Every turn, every advance, every pause. And when someone dies because of it, that's on you. You carry that. Even if no one says it. Even if they tell you it wasn't your fault. You know better. You crawl through another hedgerow in motion. The others to follow. You hear whispers. Think we'll get rotated out soon? When's the next resupply? Who's that guy anyway? You hear your name. You pretend not to. You spot another unit nearby. They're moving too, but slower. One of them has rank, real rank. You want to hand it all over salutes, eh? They're yours now. But you don't, because now they're looking to you. A mortar drops 100 yards to the north. You freeze, then adjust your course. Another decision, another risk. It never stops. Leadership isn't about courage. It's about momentum. Keeping bodies moving in a direction that might get them out alive. And it's lonely, because while they're counting on you to make the calls, they're also silently preparing for you to fail. You feel it in every stare, every pause before. Someone obeys, no one says it, but they're wondering what happens when you're the next one to drop. When you finally reach the rendezvous point, a ruined farmyard held by another unit, you want to collapse. But you can't, because now they're reporting to you. You're the guy they say, "We lost Williams," to. You're the one they ask, "Do we dig in or push forward?" You say, "Dig in," then walk behind the barn and throw up. You wipe your mouth, rejoin the others, nod like everything's fine. Because the truth is, leadership doesn't come with a warning. It comes with a body count. And you're just trying not to add your name to it. It happens fast. One moment you're moving through a thicket, crouched low, whispering to the guy behind you to keep his eyes up. The next moment, there's a crack, a thump, and then a scream that's so raw, it cuts through every layer of noise. You spin around and he's on the ground. Gut wound. You've seen worse. You've seen faster deaths, cleaner ones. But this one's slow, messy. He knows it too. You can see it in his face the moment the pain hits. He tries to stand, but collapses again, clawing at his stomach. A medic gets there fast, but his face says everything. There's nothing he can do. He applies pressure. The blood soaks through. Instantly, the guy, his name's Daniels, grabs the medic's arm and whispers something. Where's the priest? There isn't one. The medic keeps working. You kneel beside them, eyes locked on Daniels. You're not sure what to say. You've never been good at this part. I need to say something, Daniels says, voice cracking. Say something for me. The medic shakes his head. We need to stop the bleeding. But Daniels grabs you now. His fingers digging hard. His eyes are locked on yours. You ever pray? You nod. You don't. But now's not the time for truth. He starts mumbling something half scripture, half childhood memory. You say a few words back. Stuff you remember from when you were a kid. Stuff you're pretty sure he wants to hear. Then he says it again. Tell my mother. But he never finishes the sentence. His eyes stay open. His hand goes slack. The medic leans back, wipes his face, and mutters, We lost him. You don't move, because you're still kneeling next to a guy who just died asking for forgiveness. Not from you, not from the medic, from someone he'll never see again. And you can't stop thinking about that. How in the end, it wasn't his orders, or his rifle, or even his fear that mattered. It was something deeper, something ancient, a last plea, a wish for peace, something the war was never designed to give. You stand up, knees shaking, and cover his face with his own jacket. Someone asks what to do with the body. Leave it, the medic says. We'll tag it, pick it up later. You move on. But you keep hearing his voice in your head, that quiet, desperate whisper, that need for anyone to stand in for the priest who isn't coming. Later, another guy asks you if you believe in anything. God, heaven, fate. You pause, and you lie again. Yeah, because what else can you say? If you admit that there's no bigger reason, no light at the end of all this darkness, then what are you even crawling through it for? But deep down, you know the truth. The priest isn't coming. And out here, Forgiveness is something you give with a whisper, and hope is something you bury. You've got a map dot, it's folded, torn, damp, smudged with grease and blood. The ink's bleeding in places, the corners peeling. And the worst part? It's wrong. You were told that road would be clear. That house was supposed to be abandoned. That hill was taken yesterday. But here you are sitting behind a pile of rubble, staring at a German machine gun nest, exactly where command said it wouldn't be. You press the map flat against your knee and try again. Still doesn't match. Landmarks are gone. Trees have been blown apart. Roads crisscrossed with tank tracks and shell craters. Rivers look like drainage ditches now. Fields once yellow and green are nothing but churned mud and scattered debris. Even the names don't make sense. The French. Villages you were trained to pronounce back in England? Half of them don't exist anymore. They're just blackened outlines and broken stone. One guy jokes, this map's from last war. He might be right. Every time you radio back for coordinates, they give you a new set. And every time you reach the point, it's either smoking or full of enemies or worse. Full of your own guys who thought you were the enemy. It's chaos. You're walking through a blur of wrong turns and bad calls. And the danger? It doesn't wait for you to figure it out. Your squad tries to take a shortcut through a sunken road. The map says it's clear. You all believe it. But 5 steps in, a mine goes off. You lose your radio man. Instantly. Just dash gone. No warning. No scream. Just silence and smoke. Someone grabs the map, tears it in half, and throws it into the ditch. You don't blame them. You navigate now by instinct. Smell. Memory. What feels less exposed? What sounds quieter? You follow the tracks of the unit ahead of you and hope they didn't walk into something worse. But the truth sinks in. You're moving blind. Every farmhouse is a gamble. Every intersection could be ambush or salvation. You see a building marked as secure on the sheet. You check it anyway. Inside, a sniper's waiting. He misses. You don't. You update the mark yourself with charcoal. One word, cleared. But you don't trust that word anymore. Because cleared today can mean occupied. Again tomorrow. This land doesn't belong to anyone. Not yet. It shifts hands hourly. What you win in the morning, you bleed for again by nightfall. Map doesn't show that dot. It doesn't show the crater with 5 dead from B Company. It doesn't show where the hedgerow has been booby-trapped. It doesn't tell you that the stream marked as crossable is now a mire of bodies and broken weapons. You stop thinking of it as a map dot. It's just a guess. Fantasy on paper. One soldier suggests sketching your own version. Something real. You? Try it. Spend an hour charting what you saw. Roads that don't exist anymore. Buildings half standing. Fields that have become killing grounds. And it feels like drawing a dream. Because no matter how detailed you get, you still don't know what waits around the next bend. You push forward anyway, because you have to. You follow the broken fences. The smell of fire. The arc of artillery in the distance. That's your map now. And even then, this whole thing can shift in a second. One wrong turn. One missed sign. One hill you thought was safe. And suddenly, you're walking into something you were never supposed to find. Asterisk, asterisk, it was supposed to be over quickly. That's what the officers said before the landing. We'll hit them hard. Break through, push inland. Then they'll break. But the Germans didn't read the script. Instead of folding, they dug in. Instead of fleeing, they fortified. They took every hill, every crossroads, every stone wall, and turned it into a line of defense. This wasn't going to be a swift, clean landing. It was going to be a grind. You find that out firsthand on day 4, when you're ordered to take a tiny French village that isn't even on your map. It's got no more than 10 houses and a church tower. Should be simple. It takes 3 days and more than 30 lives, because every building is a trap, every window a potential firing point. The fields surrounding the place are littered with mines. One of your squad mates takes a wrong step and suddenly there's nothing left from the knees down. You drag him back. He doesn't make it. They don't stop. The Germans keep shooting, keep repositioning. You take one house, they retake it at night. You start to feel like you're digging a trench in a tide pool. Gain a foot, lose a yard, and they fight with a kind of resolve you weren't ready for. Some of them are barely more than kids, but they fight like they've got nothing left to lose. Others are veterans guys who've been on the Eastern Front, who know every trick, every inch of cover, every angle of a rifle. They don't fight clean. They use every advantage. Camouflage, snipers, rigged bodies with grenades underneath. They blend in with civilians. They set traps in cellars. You can't let your guard down. Ever. You kill a man in a barn. Only afterward do you realize he was out of ammo. You didn't have a choice. But you carry it with you, because none of them are surrendering. They're choosing death over capture, and every step forward is bought with blood. You push on, house by house, room by room. You throw grenades into kitchens. You fire through doors. You yell clear, so often it loses its meaning. At one point, your unit takes a fair mouse, holds it through the night. You find a photo on the wall. A German family, smiling. Gone now. Just ghosts framed in wood, watching the floor get painted in new blood. You ask yourself, why didn't they retreat? Why didn't they run? The answer is simple. They were ordered not to. Hitler gave the command, no retreat. Defend every inch. Make the Allies pay for every field, every village, every HEDGEROW. So they do. And the price is paid in full. You watch a squad of paratroopers clear a wheat field. They advance in perfect formation. Then a machine gun opens from the tree line. 4 go down before anyone can react. You return fire, flank, eliminate the threat, but it's too late for them. The field is quiet again, but now it's full of motionless bodies. And still, you push forward, because there's no turning back. And the Germans, despite the bombs, despite the losses, despite the firepower raining down on them, every day still won't break. You start to wonder if this is what the rest of the war will look like. A slow, brutal crawl through a country that doesn't want to be a battlefield. A war without clear victories. Just ruins, smoke, and too many names to remember. And every time you take a new position, you hear it. The same line, whispered, over and over. They weren't supposed to hold this long, but they did, and they still are. It's days later when someone finally mentions a medal. You're sitting in a shallow foxhole, knees tucked up to your chest, gnawing on what's left of a chocolate bar you traded for a spare clip. A lieutenant passes by, nods toward you, and says, "Hell of a job back there." Might even write you up for a commendation. You look up. A medal? You almost laugh. Not because it's funny, but because it's ridiculous. What's the prize for dragging your best friend's body out of a burning trench? For ordering a wounded man to hold a position you knew he couldn't survive? For crying into your sleeve so nobody sees? You don't say anything, just chew the chocolate and nod. But later, when things go quiet, it sticks in your mind. What does a medal even mean here? Will it bring back Daniels, the kid who whispered for a priest? Will it clean the blood out of your boots? Make your feet stop rotting? Wash the rot out of your clothes? No, it's just a bit of ribbon, a bit of shine. Something they pin to your chest and photograph so people back home can feel good about how the war's going. You remember basic training, the lectures, the promises. Distinguished service, gallantry in action, above and beyond. You think about the guy who jumped on a grenade 2 days ago. There wasn't much left to identify, just a ring on his hand. Will he get a medal? Maybe, but he won't be around to see it. And what about the ones who survive but never get anything? That counts? The ones who held the line, kept people moving, stitched up wounds with shaking hands? They'll go home empty-handed except for the nightmares. The real reward isn't in the medal. It's in making it through. Barely. You meet a sergeant who's already got 2 ribbons. He doesn't even wear them anymore. Says they're dead weight. He shrugs when asked about it. They pin it on you after the part that matters is already over. You ask what he means. Means the medal always shows up too late. You think back to the moment you took that Fairmouse. You lost 3 men doing it. You remember yelling. Smoke. Fire. The scream that didn't stop. And when the dust settled, you stood over a pile of rubble and realized you'd survived. No applause. No ceremony. Just more orders. Move to the next ridge. You hear about a guy from another unit who's getting the Bronze Star. Apparently, he pulled 2 wounded men from a burning tank. You remember that tank. You remember the fire. You also remember the sound of the explosion that followed. He didn't survive. So they'll give the medal to his mother. Fold a flag. Say some words. Hand her the same kind of ribbon they might. One day hand to you. Only you'll still be standing there, trying to make sense of why. You think about writing a letter home, telling someone about the commendation. But the pen shakes too much. Your hands aren't what they used to be. And besides, what would you say? I did something brave today. I don't know what it was, but I'm still here. You put the letter away. You shoulder your rifle, and you walk toward the next fight. Because medals don't save lives, and they don't clean up what's coming next. You hear it before you see it. A burst of gunfire from behind. Not enemy fire. Not Germans. You know that sound. It's familiar. Too familiar. It's American. You hit the ground and yell out, "Hold! Fire!" But it's too late. The guy ahead of you takes 2 rounds in the back. Another one behind you catches a shot in the thigh. Screaming, cursing, confusion. You wave your helmet in the air. Stand up just enough to be seen. Friendly. Friendly. Eventually, the firing stops. But the damage is done. You run back, yelling. You find the other unit hunkered down behind a wall. One of them's got his face buried in his arms. The one holding the rifle just keeps muttering. I thought they were Krauts. I thought they were flanking. You look down at your own. Wounded, blood's pouring into the dirt again. The medic's already on one of them, tying off a tourniquet with shaking hands. The guy who got hit in the back is still breathing, for now. But he's not going to make it. All because someone panicked. This isn't the first time. You've heard stories. Patrols mistaking each other in the dark. Tanks firing on infantry. Airstrikes dropping bombs on the wrong coordinates. There's a word for it. Blue on blue. But out here, you just call it what it is. A bullet with your name on it from your own side. And the worst part? It's understandable. Nobody knows where anyone is. Maps are useless. Radios are. Half busted. Everyone's dirty, tired, and terrified. The lines are smeared. The uniforms are muddy. You can't tell friend from foe until they're close enough to shoot. So sometimes you shoot first, just in case. That's what happened here. You don't blame them, but you don't forget either. The guy who pulled the trigger keeps apologizing. You want to punch him. You want to scream. But you also know you might have done the same thing. You sit down next to your wounded guy. He's looking up at the sky now, his face pale and still. His lips move, but no sound comes out. You squeeze his hand until it stops squeezing back. Another one gone. Not to enemy fire. To yours. You bury him near a stone wall. There's no ceremony. Just dirt over cloth. A helmet on a rifle stuck in the ground. You say a name. Then you move on. Later that night, someone hands you new orders. You glance over them, then laugh bitterly. You're sure these are for us? The officer looks confused. Why wouldn't they be? You want to explain. About how the last order got you shot. By your own. About how half the men following those orders are now under blankets. But you don't bother. You take the paper, fold it, stuff it into your pocket. Because out here, orders don't guarantee safety. Neither does a uniform. You brief your men. What's left of them? You double-check your flanks. You mark your helmets with chalk 2 big white X's. Anything to show we're friendly. Please don't shoot. You move into the next zone, like you're walking on eggshells. Every shout is a threat. Every shadow a maybe. You come across another patrol. You raise your hands before they do. They flinch. You flinch. No one fires. Small victories. Later, by the fire, someone mutters, "I'm not scared of the Germans anymore. I'm scared of us." You nod. Because that's the truth no one wants to admit. Out here, everyone's tired. Everyone's scared. And sometimes, the bullet that ends you doesn't come from the other side. It comes from the guy who never meant to pull the trigger. The letter never gets delivered. You wrote it the night before the landing knees curled against the steel deck, flashlight barely flickering, hands too jittery to hold the pen steady. It wasn't long. Just a few lines to your mother. Maybe your brother. A sentence about missing home. Another one about not being scared. That last one was a lie. You folded it carefully. Slipped it into your inner pocket. Promised yourself you'd hand it off to someone safer. Someone staying on the ship. But then, the whistle blew, the ramp lowered, and the letter came with you. Now it's soaked. Torn. The ink is smudged beyond recognition, turned to purple streaks across the page. You fish it out and look at it anyway, as if the act of holding it might rewind the clock. But it doesn't. The words are gone. And so is the person who wrote them. Because whoever sat in that landing craft heart pounding, legs shaking, pretending to be brave, he didn't survive the beach. You did. But he didn't. You think about rewriting it. But what would you say now? Dear Mom, I watched a man burn alive today. I held a friend's guts in my hands. I haven't slept in 4 days, and I don't remember the sound of silence. No, you crumple the ruined paper, toss it into the corner of a barn where you're resting for the night. A rat scurries past it, uninterested. Someone nearby is writing their own letter. They're using a scrap of a ration box. A stub of pencil. You overhear pieces. Still alive. Missed your birthday. Saw a butterfly today. Made me think of you. You envy them. Not for their optimism, but for their ability to pretend. You remember seeing letters get tucked into uniforms before the landing, just in case. Final words. Final hopes. Last-ditch attempts to be remembered the right way. You wonder how many of those letters got dropped in the surf. How many were found by someone else, read by mistake, passed along anyway, or burned, or buried. You've found them too. In pockets, in boots, clutched in cold fingers. You never read them. It feels wrong, like peeking into someone's last private moment. You find one near a wrecked vehicle. The soldier didn't make it. His helmet's still beside him. The letter is bloodstained, but mostly intact. You see the name at the top. Sarah. You fold it, carefully. Tuck it into your pack. Maybe someone will get it where it needs to go. Maybe not. But at least it's not forgotten. And that's what these letters are. Really. Anchors. tethers to a life outside the war, outside the mud, and the gunfire, and the madness. You think of writing another, this time not to Mom, maybe to yourself, to the person you used to be, the one who thought this would be fast, maybe even clean, the one who thought courage was about standing tall, not crawling through filth to pull a wounded man behind a wall. But no one would ever read that letter, because no one would understand it, not unless they were here, not unless they smelled it, lived it, survived it. And those who did, they don't need a letter to remember. They've got scars. You lie back, eyes on the rafters above, and close your eyes. Somewhere out there, someone's waiting for your words. But here, you've got nothing left to give, not even ink. Just the silence between gunshots, and the hope that if you live long enough, you'll get another chance to write it right. You forget your name, not all at once, not like a switch flipping, more like sand slipping through your fingers, slowly, quietly. Without realizing it, you stop thinking of yourself as the person who left home. You're not that guy anymore. You stopped being him somewhere between the third foxhole and the fifth burial, between the moment you kicked in a farmhouse door and the moment you hesitated to shoot because the man inside was praying, not fighting. Now you're just a uniform, a helmet, a rifle with legs, a number in a report, a shape in the mud. People still say your name, at least the ones who remember, but you barely respond to it. Not because you don't care, but because it doesn't fit anymore. It sounds like someone else. Someone cleaner. Someone with 10 fingers, 2 boots, and no dead friends. You catch your reflection in a shattered window. Just for a second, the face staring back is hollow, eyes sunken, beard patchy, helmet crooked. There's blood on your cheek. You don't know if it's yours. You blink. Look away. You don't want to know. The others are the same. Everyone's changing. A guy who used to hum tunes under his breath now chews his lip raw in silence. Another who never shut up hasn't spoken in 2 days. You don't ask why. You already know. There's a boy in your unit. 17, maybe. Claimed to be 18 when he enlisted. Now he's 20 in the eyes, stone-faced, carved from exhaustion. You watch as he lights a cigarette with hands that don't stop shaking. You sit next to him, say nothing, just pass him the canteen. You start calling people by nicknames. Real names are too intimate, too fragile. Red, Bones, Mouse, Cap. You don't say James or Eddie or Tom anymore, because names belong to the ones who might make it out. And you're not sure any of you will. You start forgetting where you are, what day it is, what week. You guess based on the weather. Rain? Must be Thursday. Sun? Could be Sunday. Or maybe that was last week. Doesn't matter. You stopped counting the days when you stopped sleeping through the nights. Your hands move on their own now. Clean the rifle. Check the mag. Ration the food. Fold the socks. Everything's mechanical. Habit. No emotion. No hesitation. You talk less. Listen more. Not because you're wiser. Just quieter. Emptier. Someone tells a joke. You recognize the rhythm, the timing. But you don't laugh. You don't even smile. Not because it isn't funny, but because the muscles in your face don't remember how. You look around. Everyone's the same. Haunted eyes. Movements like ghosts. One guy starts writing names on his arm in ink. The ones who've died. Like tally marks. He says he doesn't want to forget. You can't tell if it's honorable or madness. Maybe both. You find yourself staring at nothing. A wall. A tree. A patch of dirt. You catch yourself and shake your head. You used to have dreams. Now you just have flashbacks. You try to remember your hometown. A favorite street. A voice. A smell. You get flashes. Then they fade. And in that vacuum, something else takes root. The sound of boots in mud. The click of a trigger. The scream that never quite stops. These become your new memories. Your new identity. Your name? It's gone. You're not you anymore. You're this. And even if you survive, even if you make it home, you'll always be part ghost. The guns finally fall silent. Not everywhere, not all at once. But in your sector, they stop. The last echo of machine gun fire fades into the mist. No more mortar, no more screams. Just birds you didn't realize had gone quiet until now, slowly, returning to the branches. And that's when you realize it's over. Not the war, not the campaign, but this battle. This push. This strip of hell that cost you more names than you can count. You sit down. Not on purpose. Your legs just give out. You slump against a burned-out tree and stare at nothing. The others are doing the same. Some collapse. Some cry. Some laugh. But it sounds wrong, like a sound their body made without permission. One guy pulls off his helmet and lets it fall to the ground. You hear him mutter, "Still alive." He says it like it's a question. You take off your pack. It hits the dirt with a wet thud. Feels like dropping an anchor. Like finally letting go of something that was dragging you down. But you don't feel light. You feel hollow. Because surviving isn't the end. It's the beginning of everything you now have to live with. Your hands are filthy, caked with dirt and dried blood. Some of it yours, most of it not. You try wiping them on your pants, but it only makes it worse. A medic walks by, checking for wounded. You wave him off. Your injuries are all inside. You stand slowly, joints stiff, muscles aching. You look around and see faces you don't recognize, new guys who weren't there when the landing started. They look just like you did back then. Except you know something they don't. Surviving Normandy doesn't mean you've escaped it. You help dig graves, not because anyone tells you to, but because it feels like the only thing that makes sense. You line up the bodies, lay them down gently, helmets on rifles, dog tags wrapped in string. There's a chaplain now, real one this time, says some words, something about honor, something about sacrifice. You don't hear it. You're too busy remembering the ones they'll never mention, the ones without medals, the ones whose letters never got sent. You stay after the others leave. Watch the wind move through the grass. You think this used to be just a beach. Then, a battlefield, now a graveyard. And someday, a tourist spot. People will visit, walk through, read plaques, take pictures, say things like, "Can you imagine?" You can. You wish you couldn't. A truck rolls up, orders to move out. A new front, a new objective. You climb aboard with the others, boots dragging, faces blank, no cheers, no music, just the low rumble of wheels over dirt. You glance back one last time. The beach is still there. The bunkers, the fences, the craters. But the screams? Those left with you. Because even though the guns are quiet, and the mission's complete, and someone might call this a victory, you know the truth. The battle doesn't end when the fighting stops. It ends when you finally close your eyes and don't see it anymore. The church bells are ringing. At first, you don't even realize what the sound is. It feels out of place, too gentle for a place this ruined. The tone drifts over the shattered rooftops and crumbling barns like it's announcing a holiday. But the only thing being celebrated here is that it's not worse than yesterday. You step into the village square, or what's left of it. The stone fountain is cracked in half. The bakery is just rubble. The cafe has bullet holes sprayed across the awning like punctuation marks. But the church still stands. Barely. The steeple is missing. A gaping wound where the bell tower used to rise. Yet the bell is still ringing suspended from a makeshift beam between two scorched timbers. Someone climbed up there and made it happen. No orders, no schedule, just the instinct to ring it, to say, "We're still here." You walk through the doors, boots echoing against tile shattered by artillery. Inside, civilians huddle in pews. Mothers, children, old men. Their eyes are swollen. Their clothes are torn, but they're alive. They watch you, some with fear, some with something that might be gratitude. You nod. You don't say anything. What would you even say? Sorry about your town? You glance at the altar. It's been scorched, cross half melted, candles snapped like bones. But someone's placed flowers there, wild ones, plucked from whatever patch of green survived the shelling. A small, defiant symbol that not everything here has been turned to ash. You step outside. Across the square, another soldier is handing out chocolate to a pair of kids. The smaller one doesn't take it, just stares like he doesn't trust it. The older one finally grabs both and disappears into the shadows. The bells ring again. The sound carries further this time, over the rooftops, into the fields, into what used to be no man's land. And that's when it hits you. There are no more front lines here. The enemy's gone, pulled back. The shooting has stopped. And for the first time in days, no one is dying. But it doesn't feel like peace. It feels like someone put a pause button on the horror. You help. Rebuild what you can. You sweep glass out of the chapel. You move bodies, not soldiers this time, but townspeople. Civilians caught in the middle. Their lives ended without warning, without purpose. Just collateral damage in someone else's plan. You think about what this place used to sound like. Not bells, voices, laughter, children playing, shoes on cobblestone. Now it's just wind and rubble and footsteps that never rush. You walk through a house with no roof. Inside is a piano, burned, keys warped, but someone sits down anyway and presses one. It works. Just one note, no song, just enough to prove it's not all gone. You sit on the steps of the church, watch the others. File past, soldiers, survivors, everyone trying to figure out what happens next. The bells keep ringing, but it's not a celebration. It's a eulogy. And as the sound fades into the quiet, you know what comes next. A new town, a new line, a new fight. Because the war isn't over. Not yet. But in this moment, in this ruined place, with the sky soft and the bells still echoing, you feel something you haven't felt in days. Not hope, but memory. Of what peace used to feel like. You've seen the movies. You know how this part is supposed to go. The triumphant music swells. The heroes emerge from the smoke. They shout victory. They wave flags. Someone says something noble. The camera fades out. But here, there's no soundtrack. Just the distant moan of wind across an empty field. And the occasional clatter of something broken, collapsing into more broken things. You walk past a boot. Just one. No foot in it, thankfully. But it's caked in dry blood. The laces cut, the tongue curled open like it gave up too. No one's collecting these things. There's too many. Helmets, rifles, packs, bits of paper, toothbrushes, wedding rings. Left behind like afterthoughts in a place that chews up everything personal and spits it back out as debris. No camera crew here. No stirring score. Just you, picking through the aftermath like a janitor in a burned-down cathedral. A guy next to you, the one who hasn't said a word in 2 days, suddenly speaks. This isn't how they'll show it, he mutters. You nod. He's right. They'll clean it up, edit it, package it for parades and history books. There'll be paintings of the landing, statues, maybe a monument. But not one of those things will smell like this place. Not one will include the man you found curled up behind a hay cart, holding his own intestines like he was cradling a child. He'll skip that part. You walk through the field where one of the final firefights took place. The grass is flattened, charred in places, scattered with twisted metal and the occasional hand grenade someone forgot to mark. You step carefully. 2 bodies lie in a crater, both German. Young. Probably didn't even see it coming. One of them has a photo tucked under his belt. A woman and a baby. You don't touch it. You just nod, like you understand, because you do. They were doing the same thing you were surviving, and they didn't. You find yourself picking up a helmet. American. Vented. Blood on the rim. You turn it over in your hands, like it might tell you something. It doesn't. It's just a helmet now. Just like everything else here is now just something. Just a boot. Just a name. Just a statistic. You wonder what the people back home will say. That's where the tide turned. That's when the good guys started winning. You want to believe that, but you're not sure anymore who the good guys are. Everyone here bled. Everyone here screamed. And the ground didn't care which uniform you wore. Later, someone from high command visits. Clean boots, pressed uniform, shiny buttons. He walks through the town with a photographer. They pose near a damaged tank, smiling, pointing. They don't see the kid sweeping rubble out of his father's bakery with a broken broom handle. You do. The commander says a few words. Bravery, sacrifice, honor. You look at your hands, covered in dirt and old blood. No one applauds. No one speaks. Because there's nothing left to say. You think about the last few weeks. The landing. The crawl. The fire. The endless, grinding, deafening silence that followed every burst of chaos. You think about Daniels. About the sniper in the steeple. About the letters that never made it home. You think about all the little things that made this hell real. And you know, the movies won't show this. They'll show the flag going up. They won't show the part where you dug it out of the chest of a dead man who'd been clutching it since Omaha. You're standing on grass now. Soft, quiet, green. It waves gently in the breeze like nothing ever happened here. No mortar. Number. Machine guns. No fire, no smoke, no screaming. Just rows of white markers, stretching further than your eyes can follow. You're in Normandy. Still, but not in a trench, not in a crater, not behind a wall praying your helmet is enough. You're in a cemetery, perfectly symmetrical. The crosses all evenly spaced, clean gravel paths between them, flowers here and there, names etched neatly into marble. It's peaceful, beautiful even, but that peace feels ... unnatural, because you know what's underneath. You walk slowly, scanning the rows. You recognize a few names, not many. Most of the men who died next to you vanished without a word, without ID, without anything. Some are just unknown. You stop in front of one. Private first class, unknown, U.S. Army. You don't say anything, just stare at it. Try to picture his face. Wonder what his voice sounded like. What? His last thought was, if he was scared, if he was cold. You are. Still. The air is warm, but it doesn't reach inside you. A tour group walks past in the distance. Quiet, respectful. Cameras lowered. You can hear the guide explaining what happened. Hear the dates, the operation, the outcome. You wonder if they realize how much of it is still soaked into the soil. You crouch by another grave. This one has a name. You knew him, sort of, played cards with him once. Laughed about how bad the rations were. You were going to trade your Watch for his dry socks. But he never came back from patrol. You never got the socks. You never gave up the watch. You check it now. Still ticking. You don't know why that matters. It just does. You move to the edge of the cemetery. There's a bluff nearby, overlooking the beach. You climb it, slowly, feet dragging like you're still wearing the weight of the landing. From the top, you can see the sand. Omaha, Gold, Juneau. The names ring out like chapters. But from here, they look calm. Waves lapping gently. Tourists walking. Kids collecting shells. You want to scream. You want to run down and tell them what this place used to be. What it really was. But you don't. Because that's not why you came here. You came to see if the ghosts are still here. They are. Not just buried in the graves, but walking the edges of your memory. Faces you'll never forget. Voices you'll never stop hearing. You sit down. Let the grass move around. You. Let the wind pull at your collar. Let the silence settle in your bones. You think about going home. You think about what you'll say. And then you realize you don't have the words. How do you explain this? How do you describe a beach that screams? A sky that betrays you? A night that lasts for years? You can't. So you stop trying. You sit, and you remember. And when the sun begins to fall toward the horizon, casting long shadows across the perfect rows behind you, you finally stand. You don't salute. You don't pray. You just walk back down. Because here, in the grass, they already know. You made it home. You sit on the porch now. Wooden boards creaking under your weight. The breeze feels too gentle. The sky too blue. The birds chirp like they never stopped. Like none of it ever happened. But you know better. You lean back in. A chair that doesn't shake when artillery hits in the distance. You drink coffee that doesn't taste like gunpowder. You wear clothes that don't smell like rot and fire and fear. And yet, you're not really here. Part of you never left that beach. You see it in flashes. A pair of boots half buried in the sand. A helmet bobbing in the surf. The way a man's eyes change when he knows he's about to die. They come back. In dreams, not every night. Just enough to make you afraid of sleep. You've learned to spot the others, the ones like you. They walk with the same posture. That wary, silent alertness. Eyes that scan a room. Ears that flinch at sudden noise. Hands that clench even when relaxed. They don't talk about it. Neither do you. What would you even say? You tried once. You told someone what it smelled like. What it sounded like. You saw their face shift. Not in understanding, but confusion. Pity. They couldn't grasp it. How could they? You started keeping it inside after that. Letting it sit there. Like a dull ache in a place no one can see. You get letters now. From people who heard what you did. People saying thank you for your service. Politicians. Veterans groups. Even your old school. They call you a hero. You don't feel like one. Heroes don't carry the guilt of surviving. They don't remember the name of the man who bled out asking for his mother. They don't see the face of a German soldier no older than 16, curled up and sobbing before the grenade went off. Heroes get to move on. You carry it. Every day. You've got a drawer full of things you never touch. Dog tags that aren't yours. A crumpled field dressing. A cracked compass. A photo of a squad that doesn't exist anymore. You keep telling yourself you should throw it away. But you don't, because that's all that's left of them. Sometimes you walk past the mirror and catch yourself standing the way you did. In Normandy, shoulders low, head tilted, weight on the balls of your feet, ready to run, ready to duck, ready for the sound that never comes. And when you lie in bed at night, and it's just you and the ceiling and the hum of the fan, you listen. Not for the shelling, Not for the gunfire, but for the silence. Because even after everything, after the medals, the parades, the clean clothes and clean air, that's what still frightens you most. The quiet, the peace, the idea that somehow, after all that, you're supposed to return to normal, like a light switch. Like you weren't crawling through bodies just a few weeks ago. You close your eyes, and for just a second, you're back. There, on the landing craft, the ramp about to drop. Salt in your mouth, fear in your gut, and someone next to you whispers, "We're gonna make it." You want to believe that. You really do. You stand on the sand again. Years have passed. The war's long over. The beach has changed. Tourists now stroll where soldiers once crawled. There's a cafe on the bluff, a museum. Kids run barefoot through the surf, chasing kites where the landing craft used to land. It looks normal, but to you, it never will be. You crouch and pick up a smooth stone, roll it between your fingers. It's warm from the sun. Nothing about it hints at the history buried beneath it, but you know, every step here is over bones. You walk toward the water. The tide comes in gentle waves now. Back then, it carried helmets, rifles, men who never got touched dry land. You remember how the sea turned red, how it carried voices out to nowhere, how it pulled down anyone who hesitated. Today, it's crystal blue, peaceful, silent. You step into the surf. Let it wash over your boots. Behind you, someone reads a plaque. You hear the words freedom, sacrifice, bravery. They don't know what bravery looked like here. It didn't look like speeches. It looked like a kid dragging his friend to cover while screaming. It looked like a medic, out of morphine doing compressions with blood up to his elbows. It looked like a man sitting silently in a foxhole, weeping over a letter he never finished. You reach into your coat pocket, pull out something small, an old dog tag, rusted, bent, faded letters still barely readable. You bury it in the sand. No marker, no stone, just a quiet gesture. Then you stand, watch the waves for a while. You close your eyes, listen, and for the first time, there's nothing. No gunfire, no screaming, no noise, just wind and water and the faint laughter of children in the distance. You take a breath, and for once, it doesn't hurt. You turn around, walk back up the path, past the monuments, past the tourists, past the history wrapped in glass and metal. And with each step, you carry less. Because now, finally, the beach doesn't feel like it's holding you. Now, you're letting it go.